that Wits University will be beginning their vaccine from tomorrow. So we're going to get the latest now from the chairperson of the South African Health Products Regulatory Authority, Professor Helen Rees. Prof, thanks a lot for joining us this evening. Let's talk a little bit about how the participants were actually selected.
Well, the participants are still in the process of being selected. This study hasn't started officially yet. What's happening at the moment is that communities close to the research centres where the study is being done have been informed of the study and are being invited to come in if they're interested in participating. The interest so far from one of the sites in Soweto, over 1,000 people came in the first 3 days. So I think there will be a lot of interest in community in participating in this vaccine trial. And then once people come in, and if they're eligible, there are a list of eligibility criteria, then they would be fully informed. They'd have to understand what was involved in the study, and then they would have to sign what's called an informed consent. So there's an entire process that has to be gone through before people are enrolled.
Let's talk a little bit about this criteria that you're speaking about, Prof.
Well, we're looking for adults in this study aged 18 to 65 years, and they have to be, broadly speaking, healthy adults. For women, they should not be pregnant. And as you mentioned, we're going to look for a small subset of volunteers who are HIV positive, just 50 of the 2,000, and those will be enrolled so that we can see what the impact of the vaccine is on the immune system of people who have HIV.
The participants, right, sometimes, as you would with any sort of clinical trial, some may react actually negatively to the trial in itself. And if they do, what measures then are undertaken thereafter to ensure their health?
It's an incredibly important question because with these early stages of trials, this is what we call a phase 2 trial, monitoring safety is critically important. So every study of this nature will have an independent monitoring board that will look regularly at the data to see if there are any safety signals and really monitor what's happening with the study. But in addition to that, we have in South Africa very strong ethics committees and a very strong regulatory authority that oversee clinical trials. So if there are safety signals of any concern, the regulatory authority has to be informed and then will evaluate whether this is something that is of the kind of nature that would involve stopping the study or involve some other interventions. So monitoring safety is very important and will be done in all the studies that we do, all clinical trials. Safety monitoring is critical and is influential in how trials are conducted.
Will the participants be isolated for the duration of the trial of the vaccine in itself, or are they welcome to go home and come back as they please? I mean, what are the parameters within which you'll be operating when it comes to conducting these vaccination trials?
So if you think about a vaccine, we give vaccines and, you know, many people here will have had their children vaccinated and so on, or even had themselves vaccinated for different things as adults. We give vaccines to protect people against infections. So in fact, we want people to go about their business. In the context of COVID, however, we want people to go about their business and observe all of the non-pharmaceutical interventions, the distancing, wearing masks, washing hands, everything that you do now, you must do afterwards. But you have the vaccine, you go home, you come back on a few days afterwards, repeatedly, you have some bloods taken, then you have a second vaccine at 28 days. The same thing, you'll come back to the research site and they'll be monitored, the participants will be monitored for a total of 12 months. But people are expected in any trials of something like a vaccine, people are expected to go about their business, but observing all of the safety measures that we want everyone to observe.
Now, the vaccine is being used in the South African trial. It's the same one that's being used in the UK and Brazil. So therefore, how have the participants in those countries responded to the vaccine?
Well, what we know so far from the UK study, and this is using the same vaccine, but it's an independent study to the South African study, we know that that study has enrolled about 5,000 people. It's aiming to go up to 10,000 people, and they are looking very closely at safety. They'd already done much smaller safety studies where they also looked at how does the immune system respond to the vaccine. And now they're on this much larger study, and so far they're proceeding with with this study, which says that they have not seen any significant safety signals, but they're taking bloods all the way through so that once they've enrolled all the people they need to enroll, they'll be able to analyze the immune response in those participants.
Professor Helen Rees will leave it there for this evening. Thanks a lot for joining us, shedding some light in terms of that process for Africa's first vaccination trial.